Now that the NFL draft has come and gone, these are some free agent players that I feel like the Denver Broncos could and should be interested in. Despite filling several holes in the 2024 NFL draft as well as free agency last month, the Broncos still have a few things that need to be patched up on their roster, and I feel like free agency is a good place to look now that the draft is over. This is almost like the third or fourth free agency tier. There are a lot of good players that are available that are still waiting to sign deals because they wanted to see what teams were going to do in the draft. Now, teams, much like the Broncos, are going to have needs that they still need to fill, and that's when these free agents are going to come off the board. The Broncos find themselves in a little bit of a tough spot, though, just because they are taking on so much dead money from Russell Wilson this year. They're only going to have about $3 million to play with when it comes to signing free agents. All of the rest of that money is going to have to go to rookie deals. Because of this, I think that Denver's going to be very limited in who they can and will target, but I do think that there are four players that could make sense for the Denver Broncos in the event that they want to go after somebody in free agency. The first one is actually a little bit of a surprise, and it's a reunion for the Denver Broncos. Well, kind of. It's not the same regime, but it is a reunion. Trevor Siemian could possibly be in play for the Denver Broncos. Hear me out. The Broncos could save $5 million if they released Jarrett Stidham. Let's just be honest. Jarrett Stidham is not going to be in the long-term plans for the Denver Broncos unless they view him as the long-term backup. And even then, $5 million is a little rich for my blood. They traded for Zach Wilson this offseason. They still have Ben DiNucci on the roster. If they wanted to move on from Jarrett Stidham ahead of training camp and clear out $5 million to maybe make a higher-end free agency move, that could totally make sense. I entertained that as a possibility if the Denver Broncos were to want to, say, bring back Justin Simmons, for example. If the Broncos were to go down this route, they would need somebody to fill that role in the QB room. And not only does Trevor Siemian have history with the Denver Broncos, being a former 7th-round pick of us in 2015, he also has history with Sean Payton. Siemian played with Peyton in the New Orleans Saints in 2021, and he actually started a handful of games for him. He started, I believe it was 6 games or 5 games, played in 6, completed 57.4% of his passes for 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and I believe had a winning record in those games. Siemian played well when he had that opportunity in New Orleans. Since then, he's bounced around as a backup with the Chicago Bears, and most recently played last year for the New York Jets, started the last couple of games for him when Zach Wilson went down with injury. So I actually think that that could be an interesting dynamic. Plus, Trevor Siemian and Zach Wilson already know each other, so there's a little bit of a relationship dynamic in that quarterback room as well. It could really make sense if the Denver Broncos part ways with Jarrett Stidham. The Broncos QB room could very well look like something like this. You know, you could have Bo Nix is your starter, Zach Wilson is your backup, or if you're not confident in Zach as your backup, you could have Trevor Siemian as your backup. Peyton's displayed that he's confident in Siemian as his direct backup because he was New Orleans' direct backup in 2021 before Jameis Winston got hurt. And then you could obviously have, you know, whoever's left over is the third guy. And then Ben DiNucci could possibly be a practice squad candidate if you wanted to keep 4 quarterbacks in that quarterback room. Jarrett Stidham, save $5 million, bring in Trevor Siemian. I think that that actually makes quite a bit of sense. So Trevor Siemian, first free agent that the Denver Broncos could be interested in. The second one is a position that the Denver Broncos did not address during the draft. They did sign a couple of undrafted free agents at this position, but you can't really depend on those to start for you. This is a guy that you could depend on to start, and that is Logan Thomas, the former tight end for the Washington Commanders. Thomas had dealt with injuries in 2021 and 2022, but in 2023, he actually bounced back pretty nicely, recording almost 500 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. He's also an ample blocker, and quite frankly, he's better than what the Broncos currently have in their tight end room with Greg Dulcich, Adam Troutman, Lucas Kroll, and Nate Atkins. At the end of the day, man, the Broncos tight end room is probably the worst in the NFL. Logan Thomas would come in and he would at least provide you competent level tight end play, and then you could hope that Greg Dulcich is able to stay healthy or Adam Troutman's able to step up and play better than he did last year. I still don't know why the Broncos even re-signed Adam Troutman. Quite frankly, he was just absolutely atrocious for them. So at the end of the day, man, I think that Logan Thomas would come in and be your starting tight end right away. 6'6", 250 pounds, provides nice size there. He is 32 years old. If you guys don't know Logan Thomas's story, he was the former quarterback out of Virginia Tech, bounced around the NFL as a little bit, both as a tight end and as a quarterback. Later settled in at tight end and finally found a home in Washington. In 2020, he played really, really well for him. Again, 2021, 2022. He tore his ACL, so was really kind of hampered by that, but was able to bounce back again pretty nicely there in 2023. Logan Thomas is probably the best that you're going to find right now on the free agent tight end market. The Broncos desperately need help at that position. They should give Logan Thomas a call, and quite frankly, they should have done it yesterday. The next two players for the Denver Broncos are guys that I actually feel like are guys they need to bring back. They're re-signings for the Denver Broncos. The first one is Cam Fleming. I mean, I was just Googling images of him, but here we go. Cam Fleming is a guy who is a solid swing tackle. He started the last two games for the Denver Broncos, or played in the last two games, started the last game for the Denver Broncos last year at right tackle. Didn't fare very well against Max Crosby, but let's just be fair. Who's going to fare well against Max Crosby? Cam Fleming's been a solid depth tackle for the Denver Broncos ever since 2021. The Broncos should extend a one-year vet minimum deal out to him, much like all of these players who were on this list. They're pretty much vet minimum deal candidates, and Cam Fleming will at least give you some more confidence on the offensive line in the event that one of your guys go down. The Broncos had really unprecedented health on the offensive line last year. They really didn't deal with a whole lot of injuries. That's not something you can expect every single year. You need someone who can come in and at least provide you competent level tackle play, and Cam Fleming will be able to do that. The last guy that I have that the Denver Broncos should think about bringing in is Mike Purcell, man. He was the anchor of the Broncos defensive line last year. He's been the anchor of the Broncos defensive line since 2019. Looking at his stats from last year, he had 12 stops, 3 quarterback hurries, 5 quarterback hits, 8 total pressures, really solid against the run. Just somebody who will help beef up the Broncos' run defense and overall pass defense. Somebody that the Broncos really, really need to think about bringing back. He wants to come back. He expressed that on Twitter. Allow Mike Purcell, the Denver native, to finish out his career here, and that would really finish off the Broncos defensive line and make them one of the strongest units in the NFL just based on the additions that they've made so far. I'm curious, Broncos country, what additions do you feel like the Denver Broncos need to make through free agency now that the draft is over? Do you feel like they have the money to maybe bring in somebody like a Justin Simmons? Of course, they can create that money again by releasing guys like Jarrett Stidham or Samaje Perine. That is a possibility, but I think that we're probably looking at more of these lower tier free agents. But let me know who you guys think the Broncos are going to bring in. Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are 2 free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. We are trying to get to 3,100 subscribers, guys. I think we can get there by the end of the day. So if you have yet to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. And until next time, guys, I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.